Καλησπέρα σας. Dear colleagues, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last lecture in the 47th public lecture series of the Archaeological Research Unit. This evening we have the opportunity to hear about the latest results of the excavations of the new Swedish Cyprus expedition at Hala Sultan Tekke Dromolaksha by the director of the project, Professor Fischer, and the assistant director, Dr. Teresa Bürge. Professor Fischer is well known for his excavations in Jordan, Palestine, and of course Cyprus, but I'm sure a few of you know that he's also a certified dentist, I found out today. Professor, a lifetime ago, a different life. Professor Fischer is also well known for his interdisciplinary research on the cultures of the Bronze and Iron Ages of the Eastern Mediterranean, and his doctoral thesis, which he submitted to the Department of Historical Studies, Ancient Culture and Civilization of the University of Gothenburg, was entitled Applications of Technical Devices in Archaeology, the Use of X-rays, Microscope, Electrical and Electromagnetic Devices, and Subsurface Interface Radar. Considering that this was in early 80s, this was very much ahead of its time. Professor Fischer is particularly interested in cultural synchronization and absolute chronology, and is a member of the steering committee for the Archaean project, which deals with cultural synchronization and absolute chronology of cultures in the Eastern Mediterranean, the Levant, and Mesopotamia. And of course, Cyprus also was involved in the Archaean project with the late Eddie Peltenberg, and the Cyprus volume has been published. Professor Fischer is the director of the excavations at the ancient city of Tal Abu al-Haraz in the Jordan Valley, where substantial remains of the early, middle, and late Bronze Ages have been revealed. He's also the director of the excavations at the site of Tel el-Hajjul, which lies just south of the modern city of Gaza, and is one of the most important Middle and Late Bronze Age cities in Palestine. Professor Fischer is also the coordinator of a very large research project entitled The Collapse of Bronze Age Societies in the Eastern Mediterranean Sea Peoples in Cyprus. The aim of the project, which is funded by the Swedish Research Council, is to investigate the causes of disruption in international trade and eventually the total collapse of the sophisticated Bronze Age civilizations in the Eastern Mediterranean around 1200 BC. According to Professor Fischer, the nucleus of the project is the study of the economic, political, and climatological situation in Cyprus, the center of international trade in the Eastern Mediterranean. So we are all very eager to hear about the results of this project, which will be completed in 2019. So this will be another lecture in a couple of years. I'm booking you from now. But today he will speak to us about his current field project in Cyprus together with Dr. Teresa Bürge. Dr. Bürge has studied classical archaeology at the University of Vienna, where she also followed minor studies in Old Semitic philology and Oriental archaeology, Greek philology, and Scandinavian studies. She's a polyglot, very impressed by all the different languages that she has mastered, and she has carried on at the same university for her doctoral studies and graduated with distinction. Her thesis was entitled An Early Iron Age Compound at El Abu al-Haraz, Jordan Valley, Tradition, Innovation, and Intercultural Relations in the Eastern Mediterranean around 1100 BC. Since 2011, she's the assistant field director at the new Swedish Cyprus expeditions in Hala Sultan Tekke and the Swedish Jordan expedition at Tel Abu al-Haraz. Together, they will speak to us tonight about Dromolaksha Visaja, Hala Sultan Tekke 2010-2017. So we have the latest results, a synthesis of the renewed Swedish excavations. Thank you very much.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to present my lecture. And I would also like to thank the Cypriot authorities and the people of Cyprus to let me do research on their cultural heritage, but also our common heritage. I mean, I'm a foreigner, and you're very generous. Thank you very much. So, yes, the title is already presented. I will continue to show you the teams 2014, 15, 16. We do not have a picture from 2017 because there's still another person coming, so we wait until he has arrived. And don't forget, I will present 7 years of excavations within less than an hour. So this will just be an overview. If you have some questions afterwards, you're welcome to ask, and I will try to answer them. So we have mainly so far late Cypriot 2C and until 3A2, and this is according to pottery and radiocarbon and architecture, of course. But we have also frequent finds which date back to around 1600 BCE. But so far, we don't have any architecture. Maybe we have it this year. Very early architecture. So the objectives of the project are, so where is the settlement predating the 13th century BCE? And of course, to find out, we need a lot of geophysical prospecting and try to find out the entire area of occupation. Paul Ostrom said once 23 hectare, maybe 25 hectare, but the site may be even larger than that. Absolute chronology, radiocarbon dating of short-lived samples, of course, this is essential for the project. Relative chronology, I think about synchronization of Hala Sultan Decay and Cyprus with other cultures, and future research on the sea peoples phenomenon. I do not like to talk about sea peoples as peoples. I would like to prefer the term the sea peoples phenomenon, because it's much more than just peoples. So, and why was Hala Sultan Tekke abandoned in 12th century BC? This is the main objective of this 4-year project for which I received a grant last year. And consolidation, protection, and access to the public is, of course, one of the important tasks of the project. So this is the area, 50 hectare around the Hala Sultan Tekke, to the west of the mosque. And imagine what a situation we have here. We have 50 hectare which are not built on. So if there would be a chance to secure the site, this 50 hectare, this would be excellent. Because still, maybe the city was as large as 50 hectare. We could protect it for generations to come. But anyhow, this is just maybe an utopia, I don't know. Okay, geophysical prospecting, we use magnetometers and the georadar, and of course GPS. And this is planned for, it will start the 7th of June this season. We will use a magnetometer 4 to 5 meters wide, so we can cover a large area. This is a georadar map showing various city quarters, city quarter 1, city quarter 2, city quarter 3, and most likely a street between these two. This is an air photograph of the area. Again, city quarter 1, 2, city quarter 1, 2, and 3. This is the area where Paul Ostrom excavated, area 8. You see the salt lake in the background. And this is the map we produced, again, city quarter 1 to 3. And I will also talk about 600 meters towards the east, area A, which is very close to the mosque. This is a digital elevation model of the area, and you see that the site is quite flat. So we have three strata, and by stratum I mean an occupational layer. But each occupational layer there are subphases. But I will just talk about strata today, otherwise this will take too long time. So we know that since we have results from stratum 3 this year, that it was destroyed approximately 1300 BC, and then we have stratum 2, which was destroyed around 1200 BC, and stratum 1 around the middle of the 12th century BC. And why I'm a little vague about the dating, this has to do with the problem with radiocarbon. There are some radiocarbon dates, and you see the distribution of the possible dates, which is quite vast. And this is depending on the fact that we have in this period, let's say around 1200, a very bad plateau. This is very unfortunate for the project, for the excavations. And you see this plateau here. So you cannot date exactly with radiocarbon between 1225 to 1130, roughly. It's not possible. Not with radiocarbon. So now I will just present some results from city quarter 1. Here is a GPR, a georadar map showing geometrical structures, which in this case correspond to a domestic and small-scale industrial compound. And I show you the sequence of the excavations. This is after 2 weeks. This is after 1 season. After 2 seasons. And after 3 seasons. And this I added here 2016, and we are excavating at present here. This is just a start of a reconstruction. This is very primitive, but we will enhance it and we will make it much nicer looking later on. There are a lot of spindle whorls and loom weights, and I believe, or I'm convinced, that the textile production and purple dyeing was one of the main let's say, products of the people of Hala Sultan-Teke. We have so many loom weights and spindle whorls, and according to our textile experts, some of them are clearly Minoan. And this is a reconstruction of one of these looms. This is from the Copenhagen University. The only thing which is not correct are the loom weights. We have different loom weights as you've seen before, but in principle this is correct. We don't have textiles, but we have impression of textiles. And several bronze objects. This is a weight. It's bronze but filled with lead. And we have lead sling bullets, but also sling bullets of fired clay. Approximately the same weight, but they are of course larger. And one of these very strange figurines, I couldn't find any good parallels yet, and I think I sent one of the pictures to Vassos. And it's very difficult for me to find any very good parallels. If you have any suggestions, you're welcome. But my guess is it comes from the Levant. If you have any ideas, please. This is from last season, bottom, most likely Egyptian. And various pottery imported, Mycenaean and locally made. And a part of a warrior crater. And the difference between this and the well-known warrior crater from the Mycenaean sphere of culture is that here they used 3 colors. Black for the underwear, and white and red. So there are 3 different colors. And I have the feeling, I showed this picture to Sigrid Dege-Jalkotzi, and she said, my God, this resembles a wall painting. So maybe the artist was a fresco painter. It's a possibility. And in one of these rooms, there is a small altar, and just below the altar, below stratum 1, this is very important. Below stratum 1, you see the stratum 1 wall, is a crater. The altar, the crater looks like this. With different symbols, the sun, the moon, a bull and a cow, and a very strange animal below the bull. And I think this is a peacock, and this is a peahen. Another one of these craters, the bird crater. Now we move to the city quarter 2, a destruction layer. So this was just before the city was abandoned. And we found a basin close to murex shells, and this basin was used to purple dye textiles. And you can still see the purple color on the soil. And this is the murex shells, which I mentioned before. So there were quite a lot of them nearby. And the fibula, quite a large one. And Teresa, she wrote a paper on this, and she found parallels in Cyprus, Crete, and Greece. But in my opinion, the best parallels are from Italy. And then the wheel-made cooking pots. Other pottery from stratum 1. And this is also a very strange vessel. In the beginning, when I saw it, the first thing I was thinking about Mycenaean, but it's not Mycenaean. This is locally made. And I saw in one of your publications a similar vessel. And then we have this, what I call white painted wheel made geometric style, because I do not like the term white painted wheel made 3. It's difficult to distinguish between 1, 2, and 3, so I prefer this term. And destruction, again, between stratum 2 and stratum 1, this is the destruction layer of stratum 2. And if you look at this part of the excavations, and I just show you the sequence. You have colluvial soil, stratum 1 and stratum 2, and down here and in the ash layer of stratum 2, we found a lot of jewelry, gold rings and silver jewelry, and this is certainly a amulet of silver, but unfortunately we can't see it. I gave it to the department, but I haven't seen any cleaned results yet. And if you know the silver melting temperature, 962, and for gold 1064, which means the silver melted but not the gold. So the destruction reached temperatures around 1000 degrees. It was quite hot. And a lot of copper slag in stratum 2. We have inside this room we found 300 kilograms of copper slag. So they produced copper inside the city, which is quite important. We have different stages of copper processing and slag, and also pieces of a furnace. And this year, by the way, we found a furnace. We found a furnace for copper melting inside the settlement. And various Aegean torches, there are a lot of parallels to them. Mold for ring, and other molds for iron arrowheads and tools. And in one of the pits, close to this heap of bronze, copper slag and copper ore, we found an ingot, 1.5 kilogram heavy, and it's not copper, it's bronze. It's a bronze ingot. And another of these beautiful craters. One wonders if there was a Hala Sultan decay painter. Maybe there was, because we have several of them. And this is, we called it the Horned God crater just because of this person here. And here there's something between his legs, but this piece is missing, unfortunately. We couldn't find it. And some details of the crater. This looks very much like blue tuna, but it's just a guess. Peacock, another bird. Now we move to city quarter 3. Several figurines, Mycenaean and Cypriot base ring figurines. And for the first time we found a wall which is wider than the domestic walls. And I know Paul, my former teacher and friend, was looking for the city wall of Hala Sultan Teke. He never found it, and it's not so wide as a city wall should be, but still it's much wider than the wall of a domestic building. So we have to extend the area and see maybe we can find out the function of this wall, which stands alone. It's not connected to any building. And another basin, most likely used for purple dyeing. There's a well, and inside the well we found a well head. You still see the traces of the rope? And this is now in the courtyard of the Larnaca Museum. And I write on, and I received some very interesting input from Vassos about parallels, and that's the only one which I could find which is similar is a parallel from Crete. But the where is not Mycenaean. It's not Minoan. It's Mycenaean. Some Egyptiaca, faience vessels, Ushabti, the Horosai, and alabaster vessels. Now we move to area A, and this symbol you will find out why I choose this symbol. So if you look at the position of area A, it's here. The mosque is here somewhere, and the distance is approximately 600 meters. Here an air photograph of the area, photography of the area. You see the mosque in the background, the salt lake, and in the background also the airport. So the airport is very close. And we found 3 different types of features. Everything which is blue are wells, red are tombs, and yellow are offering pits. I will explain this term offering pit later on. So I will just choose some of them and show you the contents of these features. For example, A, and if you're observant, you see I used red and blue, which means this has been a well, but the well was reused as a tomb. And in this tomb well, we found 6 skeletons in layers, 6 human skeletons and the skeleton of a large dog, together with a female around 18-20 years old. Maybe her pet, who knows. But no tomb gifts. We found pottery sherds, and all the sherds from this feature are, here's an example of one of the skeletons. And the tomb gifts, no, but some personal belongings, finger rings, earrings, but no tomb gifts. So I have the feeling these people were thrown into the well, covered with soil, the next, covered with soil, the next. This is the dog, and this is the lady with artificially deformed cranium. You see it? And a very bad state, a dental state. Very bad, really bad for such a young girl. And the pottery, On the top and the bottom, the same pottery. So we are in the 12th century, let's say the first half of the 12th century. This is the situation when you find a well. Usually it's whitish, and then also you can see the steps when they built the well and when to go down there. Another well, some finds from a well, from this well. The scarab is the 19th dynasty. Do you know what this is? Any guesses? Difficult? My students suggested it's an alien, but it's not. It's not. In well C, this is a pure well, we found this beautiful figurine of a bull. And in B is an offering pit. It was full with intact pottery, but I missed now one. Oh, there's one missing. No, it's not missing. This is the typical well, but the offering pits usually are covered with ochre. And I guess this is a kind of symbolic meaning, to seal the offering pit with ochre. And in this pit B, a lot of complete pottery, Mycenaean, local pottery, but not a single skeleton. This is the reason why we call it offering pit, and this is one of the research projects of my assistant Teresa. And there's one pottery type which I cannot classify. I do not know what it is, and we have a shirt with us. So, can I get some input from you? I would be very, very happy. It's black, really black. It's burnished, highly burnished, and I showed it to Penelope Manchoy. Of course, she didn't know. To Reinhard Jung, he said this is Cypriot, but he didn't know. So I don't know what this is, but we have a lot of them now. How many people? We have 4 vessels this year of this type. Okay, we move to another offering pit P, which is very close to the tomb 1, which you excavated, Vassas. It's very close, just a couple of meters. So I guess the tomb and the offering pit are connected. And in this we found white slip 1, 3 different. Base ring 1, I date this around 1500 BC. And now we move to the finds from the last year, 2016. This is pit V, which is again an offering pit, full with pottery and other finds, but no skeleton. No skeletons. It's a kind of recumbent 8-shaped. A lot of locally produced wares, base ring, white slip, imports from the Mycenaean sphere of culture, but also the Minoan, number 3. And some figurines, but again, no skeletal remains. And I mean, this is not from our excavation. I just wanted to show, to remind you how the people, the painters, depict people, and especially if you look at the females, the dress of the female here, it's quite stylized. And then we found a lady with a very complicated and very extremely nice dress, which is quite unique because you find this only on frescoes. And as far as I know, it's the first time on pottery. And of course, there are a lot of parallels you have from Corinth, from Knossos, from Mycenae and Akrotiri. And if you look at the dresses, they are identical, almost identical, except for these arrows are pointing downwards, but here upwards. This is the only difference. And I gave a lecture a couple of months ago in New York, and then in my spare time, I went up and down Fifth Avenue, and I found a very good parallel. It's almost identical, isn't it? Look at this. And we had also a couple of chariot craters. Now we move to Tomb X, and this is a tomb because there were a lot of skeletons, 17 individuals. And again, it looks like a recumbent 8, and it's very similar to the offering pit V. They are quite close together. And this is the usual custom to sweep aside the older remains to get place for the new burial. So most of the finds, they were found along the periphery of the tomb, skeletal remains and complete pottery. I show you some of the finds from Tomb X, white slip 1 and white painted 6, and different types of white slip 2, early and normal and late. So the tomb has a quite long lifespan. Basing 1 and this double chocolate. There's an almost exact parallel in the Cyprus Museum in Nicosia. And these huge basing 1 chucks. And basing 2. A red lustrous wheel made. I don't know how many we have. Can you remember?
Around 10, almost 10.
We have 10 of these spindle flasks, spindle bottles, but just one bowl, which is quite unusual in red lustrous wheel made. And most of them, they have pot marks. And now we started also a petrographic project to find out where it comes from. I mean, I'm not the first to try to find out where they come from. Different ideas, northern Cyprus, southern Anatolia. I guess you know this. And a lot of pucaro. I don't know, I forgot to mention, in the offering pit there were 70 vessels. In the tomb there were approximately the same number. And this is one of the earliest imports from the Mycenaean or Minoan sphere to Cyprus. I consider it being Mycenaean, but Penelope Manchoy suggested it could also be Minoan. But we have to check, we have to do some petrography and Newton activation analysis to be sure. And here you see the problem with the area. And this is the reason why we are excavating this year again. Because most of the finds are very close to surface. And farming and plowing destroys vessels every year. So this one was cut by a plow. So we never found the base, unfortunately. So the time is running out for area A. So we try to save as much as possible. This is an import from the Levant. We have petrographical sites now, and this vessel comes from the area south of Haifa. And some Egyptian import is the god Bes. And scarabs, one is gold mounted here, another scarab. And here's one scarab with a men capare, the cartouche of Thutmose III, 1493 to 1439, which is the latest dating. So Thutmose III has been pushed back in time a couple of decades, according to the latest results. And yes, you see him here. I used the new dating, 1493 to 1439. But according to scarab experts, that the scarab was most likely made later than his reign, because Thutmose III scarabs were produced. We have one from Jordan, 11th century BCE, Thutmose III cartouche, and other finds from this tomb. And this is just to show that the spread of the vessels in time, and let's say they start 1550 and end 1200. So the tomb was in use during a quite considerable period. So now, Teresa.
So I would like to just very briefly present the cylinder seals from the new excavations. Unfortunately, well, I could hold a whole lecture about each of the 9 new seals, but it's not possible, so I will just present them very roughly. The contexts where these cylinder seals come from are 2 settlement city quarters, CQ1 and CQ2, and Area A that was just presented by Peter. So the first seal I would like to show is from Area 6, which is CQ1 now. It's from the most recent stratum, and interestingly, it was found in a domestic area or workshop area, which is dated to the 12th century. The seal is of hematite. And what is so interesting about this seal is that this is one of the rare cases where we have 2 registers on a seal. And there are just very few parallels from Cyprus and the Levant. For instance, this one from Enkomi and Kition, and from Lachish. Another interesting detail is that we have traces of red color inside, like here, which there are 2 possibilities to explain it. It could have been used for when it was used for on textiles. It might also be that this is due to the material. When it was carved, when the hematite was carved, this red color shows up on the surface. The material and the style very much indicate that this is not originally a local Cypriot seal, but if you look at the seal that is quite worn, you see it very well at the edges. On the other hand, the carving seems very fresh. So I suspect that this has been recarved on Cyprus. It is an imported seal, but it was recarved by a Cypriot, most likely Cypriot seal cutter. Another one comes from Area A, from Well C, and it was associated with material from the 13th and 12th century in the fill of the well. Also, this is of hematite, and it shows like a scene, a procession of persons holding animals, stags or gazelles they just have been hunting. And this is a seal of the Mitannic common style, which has parallels in the Levant, Ugarit and Hatzor, very close parallels, but also in other places. Oops. A third seal comes from a pit in CQ2, and this pit is actually a tomb that was somewhat disturbed by the later settlement, and the tomb material is from the 13th century approximately, and it's made of Egyptian blue. And it shows a procession of 3 persons with arms. And it was not so easy to find good parallels of this seal. There are some motifs that resemble very much, but the carving style is quite distinct in the sense that there are very few details shown. It's a very, very flat style of carving, which may also be due to the material. And this is another one which was in the same context in the tomb from the 13th century in Siku II. And this is of white faience, and it shows a man holding a tree and a gazelle or a stag. And also this is a Mitanni common style cylinder seal. And this is a type that was mass produced and very frequent and very widespread. As you can see, one of the most recently published seals from Hatzor, from a 13th century context. We have very similar seals from Hala Sultan Tekke, from Ugarit with the same motif, the man holding a tree, and also from Kamit el-Lodz, the same way of carving and depicting the animals and also the trees. Now I would like to show you the new cylinder seals, which are still unpublished or are about to be published from last year from Tomb X. And the first one is of hematite. So this is just a preliminary drawing because it's very difficult to see it on the photograph. And this is a procession of 3 persons, 2 of them holding animals, again, stags, gazelles, and this is another animal which is a lion. You can see it. You can see the paws. They look very different from there, and also the horns are missing. And then there's the bucranium and the sun symbol. And 2 more seals. One of steatite and the other of chlorite or hematite. We still have to analyze it with the XRF to find out. And as the previous one, which in my opinion is of Cypriot style, also these are of Cypriot production, and they show different animals. And this is something appearing very frequently on Cypriot style seals, stylized persons, trees, and different symbols, like the symbol reminding an ingot, stylized bucranium, and this concentric circles. Just to show you one of very many parallels to these seals. This is from Hala Sultan Tekke, and it shows almost the same figures, the bucranium, the person, and the tree, and also here again this ingot-shaped symbol. And 2 more seals of hematite. Here again a kind of tree or a standard, a man holding it, and here another man and different animals like lions and a scorpion. So this is most likely this symbol, like the mistress of animals or something related to it. To conclude, we have 15 cylinder seals from Hala Sultan Tekke from the old excavations. In addition, we have 9 from the 2010 to 16 excavations, which increases the number of known provenance cylinder seals from Hala Sultan Tekke quite considerably. We have Egyptian and Syrian, which means Mitanni influences, but we also have Cypriot features on the seals, and especially the seals from Tomb X are all Cypriot productions, in my opinion. The first seal, which I showed you, is recarved, possibly or most likely by a Cypriot seal cutter. And these seals are very frequently found in burial contexts, except for the one from the settlement, the first one, and the other one from Well C. And this corresponds very much to the evidence from other parts of Cyprus, where we also find seals mainly in burial contexts. Well, the question is, how did they use them on Cyprus? We have no preserved sealings amongst the material from the 2010 to 16 excavations at Hala Sultan Teke, which does not mean that they did not use it for sealing, but they may have used clay, but also textile, papyrus, leather, writing boards with wax, and other media for sealing, which are not preserved anymore. And of course, we may also assume that they did not just use it for sealing, but also as prestige good and luxury item or exotica.
Okay, I will not keep you very much longer, but I will just present some conclusions. And at the end, I will show you some results from the last 2 weeks. So, it's a very interesting question. Is who or what caused the destruction of strata 1 and 2? We still we do not know at present, but maybe in the future we can find out. Of course, there are different hypotheses: invaders, natural causes. We know we have an ash layer in stratum 1. Stratum 1 was destroyed, and then the site was abandoned, and suddenly a huge site, a very wealthy site, was abandoned. Why? There must be a reason for this. And also we have a destruction in stratum 2, which is older than, and again, why was it destroyed? So what happened to the people of Hala Sultan Teke? Did they all move to Kition? I don't think so. Thousands of people. I don't think so. I think maybe they moved further on. Maybe. If you look at what we have in stratum 1, and you look at the pottery from Palestine, 12th century BC, it's almost the same, identical. And much of the pottery from Palestine is in fact Cypriot. So maybe they took them with them, and then later on they produced the same shapes, the same decoration of local clay. It's just a theory. Now some conclusions about the settlement. The size of the settlement, we don't know yet, but maybe we'll find out this year. Wealthy societies I've mentioned, far-reaching intercultural connections, and what is interesting is metalwork in textile production and purple dyeing inside the settlement. And strata 2 and 1 came to a violent end. We don't know so much about stratum 3 yet, and the site was abandoned around 1150. But I told you about radiocarbon. It's a problem. And about area A, it was used from the 16th to the 12th century BC. So you see the discrepancy. You have very old tombs, but the settlement is younger, so far. Maybe we'll find the older settlement soon. Of course, within this 50 hectare, which I've shown you. We have very early imports from the Mycenaean sphere of culture, late Helladic 2A. I think this vessel is Mycenaean, not Minoan. And the wells and offering pits and tombs are close together, which is very strange. If you would build, I mean, today, nobody would get the idea to dig a well inside a cemetery. Absolutely not, no. But at that time, maybe other reasons were dominating. And the tombs and offering pits are associated, I mentioned this. The wells in general more recent, according to the contents. This I mentioned before. Now, finds from the last 2 weeks. We have some notched scapulae. So this is quite interesting. One from a sheep, I guess, and one from bows. You have a number of figurines again. A base ring 2 bull and a base ring, yeah, whatever, a base ring figurine, we don't know yet. 1 or 2, which is not complete. And this is very strange. This is a quite naturalistic image of a horse. If you compare to the Mycenaean and the local horses, which are very stylized, this is really naturalistic. It looks like a horse, really like a horse. So this is interesting. And again, a part of a chariot crater, which we found last week. We haven't the remaining part yet. Base ring 2. And I think this is a spindle whorl with the spindle, because this is wood and it must have been close to bronze, to copper, which made the wood is still preserved, and the disc is of ivory, decorated ivory. And if you look very carefully, you see 1, 2, 3, 4 remains of these very, very thin discs. So this was a spindle whorl with this large disc and 4 very tiny discs. So maybe it used several threads, or it's quite. I have never seen this before, but maybe you can give me some references. Would be very interesting. Yeah, and this is what we are doing now. This is stratum 3, which we call stratum 3. So we are at least in the 13th century, maybe in the 14th century. This is to the south of Sico 1, and this is one of the latest photos we have. And now we are Jenny, who is editor-in-chief for this volume, and this is just a make-up, so it will look differently, but I just show you that hopefully we will publish the first 7 years after the summer 2017, and we're still waiting for the osteological report by David Rees. But when his report is ready, then we will publish the book. So I hope next time I can show you the volume in print. Okay. Thank you very much for your attention. And I just want to show you a new excavation technique. Okay, thank you very much.
On behalf of my colleagues and of all the audience, I thank you all very much.
Okay.
It's because of the live streaming, that's why we all have to speak on the microphone. But, as I was telling, we thank you very much, you and Teresa Bürge, for these spectacular finds from your joint project. That shows, that underlines once again, or much more, the cosmopolitan character of this huge city of Lake Ronjates, Cyprus. It's really very important that you have shown us part of the settlement, part of cemetery, so various functions of the city, and I'm sure that people who have already excavated sites of the same period or are studying material from the same periods will have questions to you. So,
well, we all knew that La Sultanteké was a very prolific site, but I never thought that it was so prolific. I have many questions about the material. I don't share your conclusions about the site. I think one should take into consideration what happened in the rest of Cyprus, and I don't think that the Cypriots all of a sudden took a boat and left Cyprus. But this is another matter. At the end of your last season, I pointed out that what looked like a Paphos might be a bathtub.
Yeah.
Have you excavated?
Yeah, it is a bathtub.
It is a bathtub.
Yes, you were right. Absolutely.
But not only I'm right, but it is very important.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Thank you. Well, the shirt with the warrior with the two colors, you asked your...
Three colors.
Yes.
Okay.
You asked the opinion of the audience. I think that it comes straight from Tiryns. In Tiryns, there is a special style with a profusion of white color applied on red. And we usually have these long-legged warriors and chariot scenes. With regard to the figurine, which you showed at the beginning, this is really an enigma. It doesn't look like a late Bronze Age figurine. The late Bronze Age figurines are more naturalistic in style. If I have to give an opinion, I would say that it may be an antique.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your points. And by the way, returning to the bathtub, this year we found very close to the bathtub painted plaster, red painted plaster, tiny pieces. So.
A wall painting?
We don't know yet. They're tiny pieces. So we will try to expose more of it. And thank you very much for your.
More when I visit.
Yes, you're welcome.
More questions, Professor Maris?
You indicated that it's your intention to examine the materials of the cylinder seals scientifically. Are the identifications that you've presented tonight based upon any scientific results, or are they based upon visual analysis?
No, we used, except for the last year, every year we used XRF. And I know you had a project running, checking if the seals are of hematite or chloride. And I agree, many of the so-called hematite seals are not hematite, they are chloride. So in this we agree. So unfortunately this year we didn't take the XRF with us, but I got a very nice offer by my colleague to do some XRF analysis, and then I can tell you if the black ones are chloride or hematite. Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to ask about the industrial installations that you showed us, the purple dye facilities and the metalworking. How do they relate to the residential structures? Are they workshops within residential structures?
Yes.
They're not separate?
Yes. So next to the dyeing installations, there were living rooms, kitchen. So inside, and if you of course you know the terrible smell when you produce purple, and this was inside the settlement, which is quite amazing.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to ask your opinion after all these years of excavation. Do you have any indication for the harbor? I mean, if it was a harbor city, because we've seen, of course, the connections with many places outside Cyprus. So yes, this is an indication, but an indirect one. But I haven't seen anything on the iconography, for example, or any other find that would indicate that indeed it was a harbor city. Not that it wasn't, but what about your findings?
Yes, we have many walls in which stone anchors were built in, reused. Yes. So we have, I can't 20, 30, 40, something like this, and we have also, you know, the Cape Kitty survey. Many years ago, they found a lot of stone anchors, which is it's a
Yes, but it's not, I mean.
no.
Yes.
But still, since the present Salt Lake, which is considered, which once was the harbor of Halle Sultantik, most likely, because at that time it was filled with water and there was a connection to the Mediterranean. I would say if you would do excavations at the bottom of the Salt Lake, it would be very, very interesting. And what I planned together with a couple of years ago, with the Boltzmann Institute in Vienna, we wait until the Salt Lake is filled with water, and then we can use a special arrangement of georadar on the boat to see if there are any shipwrecks at the bottom of the Salt Lake, or stone anchors for that. This could be the ultimate proof that the Salt Lake was the harbor, which I think it was, yes.
But you haven't found anything in the structure of the city, I mean the spatial arrangement of the different districts. I mean, you have found workshops, you have found the cemetery, you have found houses, but nothing that indicates a special area that is connected to the harbor of the city, not just
No, no. Of course, it's a matter of interpretation, but no. So far, no.
How was it determined that the four bowls, the handmade burnished bowls, were Cypriot? Were made?
The handmade, you mean the black ones?
Yes.
Can you? We took a shirt with us, and we can show it around. And I have asked many people. Show it to us first.
This is one of the found yesterday, and it has this sort of lecture.
Of course, we will do petrographic analysis and also NNA analysis, because this is within this 4-year project for which I received.
I think Dr. Pilido will be able to identify it. I know it's not Cypriot.
Not Cypriot.
No.
No, there are similar ones at Kidion.
Yeah.
So where do you think it comes from?
Well, they're Italy probably, but also you have the similar ones at Cagna.
Okay.
The excavations at Castelli, they're very similar.
Because we asked
They
Reinhard.
are also thought to be Italian.
I think you were in contact with Reinhard Jung just recently, and he doubted that they come from Italy, because he's excavated in Italy.
They resemble the impasto.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The tiny Balkans.
Sorry?
Balkans.
They are really beautifully made. This is one of the not so nice looking pieces, but we have some complete.
It is lustrous also.
Yes,
The
highly
outside.
burnished, highly burnished.
Yes.
It's almost like a mirror if you look at the surface. So, do you think they are from Italy?
It's possible. I don't think it's Cypriot.
Okay, sea people's phenomenal.
Well, in the nearby Pila, 4 amphorae from Sardinia have been found.
Yes.
4 of them.
Yes. This is Why not?
So Central Italy must have been in contact, direct or indirect, with this Cyprus.
So until we have some petrographic or NA analysis ready, so we could write Italy, question mark?
Western Mediterranean. Okay.
Central
Mediterranean.
About the Balkans.
Yeah.
We know so little about the Balkans, I think.
Reinhard Jung will be able to tell you more about this.
We sent him some pictures. You did?
Pictures, pottery picture.
Okay.
One should feel pottery. I want to
talk about the metallurgy, of course. And I'm glad that you're weighing the slag, because at this point, you have more slag from an excavated site of this period. We know from Agios Dimitrios that from the whole site they had about 150 kilos. And this is an Engomi. Unfortunately, we do not know how much slag was there. We know there was a lot, but we don't know how much was collected, if there was total collection. The one that is in the storerooms is less than what you have found. I think Engomi had a lot more, but it was not all brought back to the site. So you have quite a lot compared, for example, on the contemporary side of Agios Dimitrios, which is also closer to the mines and to the other things. So it's very interesting, and I'm glad that you're weighing everything, and because weight is such a more independent and objective way of recording things, because then you can have a real comparison. So you have a lot of slag. And I can, you know you have a lot of slag, but I can tell you also that it's a lot of slag.
This year we found a lot of slag again. And by the way, we did some lead isotope analysis done by Ernst Pernitzke in Bonn, and the interpretation was done by Sophia Stoss-Gale, and she says the ore comes from Calabasas.
Oh, really? It's interesting because from Calabasas it comes from Apliki. So finally the Calabasas mines were in use.
But this is her interpretation, so I'm not a specialist on this, so I have to trust the specialist.
If I may ask you something, you have presented us these industrial areas, and I wanted to ask you if these have been used for the same thing over all strata, let's say. Do you see any continuation in these quarters of the city you have excavated? Like, could you tell that over centuries this part has been used for textile production, another one for metal production? So
as regards textile production, I would answer yes. Metal production, no. We don't know enough, because the metal slag comes mainly from stratum 2. But now we have, the last 2 weeks, we have a lot of slag, and very, very heavy slag, which I think is ore, from stratum 3. In this new area which I showed you, in the south of Sico 1. So, but we need a lot of more research to
And another thing, you have shown us the limits, let's say the extension of the city and the limits. And what was remarkable is that all these wells and offering places and tombs, they are all concentrated in the east part. Would you consider, and that there you have also indications for use of very early periods of the 15th, if not from the 16th century. Are you, what I'm thinking by seeing all that is that you may perhaps have had over there the oldest cemetery or the oldest cove of the settlement, which during the centuries has been extended. And because if this was the case, then you have all these offerings at the oldest part of the city, which would be a fact related with ancestors, cult, respect, etc.
Yeah. Kannst du das Bild von der Erde 6 und der Erde 8 zeigen? This is one of the reasons why in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks time, we will do a large-scale geophysical survey, because we haven't investigated the area between the cemetery and the wells, and the next area is Area 8, excavated by Paul during many years. So there is a huge area which we do not know anything about, this area. So it's not unlikely that we will find the oldest city here, close to the tombs which contain all this old material dating back to even 1600 BC. And this is what we see here is just an extension of the old city, but it's a theory.
It's a theory, yes.
Yeah, I speculate now, so
yes.
yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah. So we will do the survey, we'll cover the whole area here. I will also go to the south of this road because my license concerns plot 66. Plot 66 is going from here and to the west almost to Tripes. So we can do the survey there.
Yeah, can I say, the wells are very close to the salt lake. How would that affect the water?
This is I'm happy that you asked this question because we followed the magnetometer map in order to find wells, tombs, and so on. Because wells, tombs are black dots everywhere, and we found in this area 83 black dots. Of course, the magnetometer doesn't tell me it's a tomb or well. It's something different from the surrounding soil. And we excavated one of these dots, and there was a huge stone covering a hole. And when we took out this stone, there was a deep hole, 12 meters deep. So somebody dug a well recently and covered the hole with a huge block of stone. And 12 meters down, we found water. So we took a small vessel, took it down, and we took it up again, and it was salt. You cannot use it, not for gardening, not for drinking. So 12 meters down, you have water, but it's salt. So this is interesting. So the question is, was it salt in the late Bronze Age? I cannot answer. But obviously not, otherwise they wouldn't have dug the wells.
Is there any other question? If not, we thank you both and we wish you all the best. We wish that in the next 2 years you may find even the administration place of this important city, or at least the earliest core of this city. Thank you very much.
Thank you.